Welcome. Welcome to Way Off the Record. Today, my guests are the creative team behind Constance Cooks, Constance Zaytoon, and Mark Stewart Whites. How are you?
Thank you for having us, Scott.
We're doing good, thanks.
Thrilled to have you. It's been too long since we've been able to hang out, but I really wanted to devote this episode to this amazing show that you guys are working on that you've created and you write and you produce and develop and edit, and it's just fabulous. Let's look at a cute clip of the podcast. Here we go.
Connie, stop wasting your time.
I know that it takes time.
I'm going to say this for your own good. I don't want to hear from you again until you've turned your dissertation into a book.
What about our $200,000 in student loans that we have?
You have. If you die, I don't have to pay those back.
You should get a PhD in bartending.
Okay, thanks.
I even filmed him, stalked him, filmed him.
Could you give this package to his agent to give to him?
The show is called Constance Cooks, so I guess you could call me more of a cooker.
You know a cooker is someone who makes meth, right?
Order it!
Okay.
This can't be happening to me. I have a PhD in feminist visual art.
And we're back. That was fantastic. And I think it gives the audience a really good sense of the feel of the show. And what I also love about it is that it explains in a really fun way what you probably went through convincing people that this would be a good idea. I really want to talk to you about that initially, because I love that you were like, I'm not a cook, I'm a cooker. And she's like, that's what meth people do. And Charles Kuralt and the whole thing. Who knows who Charles Kuralt is anymore? How was that whole thing? What was the genesis of this project in your head, but then also convincing people that it would be a good thing to do?
See, so yeah, he really picked up on the low-hanging fruit.
I mean, let's just say we're still trying to convince people to do it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
But the genesis of the idea, I guess you want to take that?
Well, no, it is. You're absolutely right. So it's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a few factors that would come into this. So one was I generally like to host and have dinner parties or parties. And I started experimenting a lot more in the kitchen, and people were very encouraging of like, this should be a salon. You should have people over and do this and whatever. You should have a show. Because I guess everybody says that if you're an actor, you should have a show.
It's also just you. It's just, you're so charming, and it's so well written, and it's so natural. It's not something like staged or anything. It's in your home. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm interrupting. Go.
No, thank you. That's most kind. And then the other part that happened was I was finishing my PhD. And in the course of my dissertation, I would interview artists. And of course, I would bring them over and cook for them and interview them. And so then that was the Charles Kuralt part. That became like, we were like, oh, we should do a living journal of all these amazing artists in New York and put something on PBS, because of course PBS wants to do that. So then
you have a PhD.
This is the part that's a little debatable, where it shifted.
Well,
right?
so we got really excited about doing this, like, we would call it reality as opposed to narrative, which is like pre-written, pre-scripted, that kind of thing.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so like a cooking show is a kind of reality thing because it's, there's no like story that's happening. So we got excited about doing this living journal. There's no written story. We got excited about doing this living journal of artists and cooking for them and interviewing for them. And then And the more we thought about it and the more we lined it up with Constance's career as an artist, we decided we wanted to do a fictional show about making a show.
Oh, interesting. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like we do need to clarify a little bit. So what you just showed your audience is an example of the narrative comedy that we've written.
Right.
When you say that we film a lot of it inside our home, that is more really referring to this to the cooking segments that we started to make during COVID-19.
Oh, okay.
As a way of building up the brand. So what folks can see right now, and we can talk more about it, but what they can see right now is really the cooking part of it. But what you just showed them a clip of is the comedy narrative stuff that exists.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Oh, that's so exciting. I didn't realize that there was like...
Yeah, so many moving parts to it all.
Fabulous. And like you said, it's still sort of a work in progress about like how the thing is coming together, and we're at the ground level here. I'm way off the record talking about this. I can't. My tens of listeners are going to be so excited. Kidding.
We feel the same way. You know, I mean, this is, in many ways, this is what this character of Constance is going through. It's a woman who's trying to make a cooking show, and there are episodes about not having followers and how do you get followers and all that thing. And meanwhile, in real life right now, we are making an actual cooking show, and we're doing the same thing. How do we get followers? Where do we get followers? So we're having this weird life imitates art.
If you find out, let me know. All I do know is that in all seriousness, you know, when you have a podcast, you get, you know, we're on Apple and Google and Spotify and blah, blah, blah. And at some point, and I don't even know how this happens, because you have to host the episodes on a certain platform, and those are just the audio ones. And now we have the YouTube channel, which is this is going to be, and then the audio will be extracted and blah, blah, blah. And at some point, Apple has these metrics that used to be really clear. You used to know how many subscribers you had and blah, 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 and breaks it down into segments and countries and all this stuff.
Wow.
And then randomly, I get these emails every now and then that, like, I got an email a couple months ago that we ranked 105 in Ecuador for social and cultural podcasts. I'm like,
well, holy shit.
Like, I have no idea how Ecuador even found it. So
You're in Ecuador. Hello, Ecuador.
Hello, Ecuador. Thank you, Ecuador. I mean, I don't know how it works, but I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, I mean, our show features New York, so if anybody in Ecuador is interested in learning about New York chefs or New York artists, watch our show and you'll get a good sense of it.
And I'm going to put a link on for your Instagram page, or you can just, like, anyone, people know Instagram, you can head over to Constance Cooks on Instagram. That's where they can see the episodes and, you know, check on the progress and stuff of the show. So Constance and Mark and I met. We're still debating this exactly what year this was, but it's been like a good 15 years ago, I think.
When we were in high school, you know, 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. At our friends Marie and Dan's New Year's Eve parties, like basically at the beginning, right? And then it would like branch off into other sort of non-holidays or whatever, but it was like basically New Year's Eve sleepovers, and there was like 10 of us, and we'd have gobs of champagne and great food by Constance and Mark and me and my boyfriend at the time, and everybody, Maria, and everybody would make food, and we would just like hang out, play Jenga.
Oh my God.
Fantastic.
It was amazing. I know, it was like, if you described this evening to anyone, they'd be like, you guys are the most boring human beings in the world. But it was so much fun.
Exactly.
So much fun.
Exactly. And it went on for a good decade.
It did. You know? Absolutely.
So
non-stop for a decade.
I know. It was like, and I
it's
remember,
the lost decade.
I feel like dinner was, we usually ordered dinner that night, but the big making everything was brunch the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we would make you would make your ricotta pancakes.
And
and Maria would make the late night lasagna. Holy shit.
That's right. That's right. Oh my God. So good. Shout out to Maria Lamonto. And
so good.
Blast it out after we do this. So I want to talk about the genesis of this project, of Constance Cooks. And we talked about it a little bit earlier. How did you actually take this idea and turn it into something tangible that you could work, show people and get people interested?
You want to take that one because it's the week.
Did I ask that already?
No. I realize we're fragmenting the story. I mean, so we had this idea for a show about making a show. We we had this this fictionalized version of our life, basically. I tend to be the procrastinator. I mean, we thought this was a great idea. We loved this idea. And then, life intervenes, work intervenes, juggling, you're an artist, you have a day job, you have a survival job, all that stuff intervenes. And I didn't help, I wasn't really helping advance the cause.
He's totally throwing himself on the bus. It's not all him, please.
So,
come on now.
I like to joke that so now Constance is like, we got to do this. And I can see she's like in terrible pain that we've been procrastinating for a long time. So finally, what I had read somewhere about a guy who basically paid himself to make his art. He took a week off. So that's what we did. We took a week off from our other obligations and we paid ourselves to take that week and really focus on the show. And we basically locked ourselves in our apartment and wrote 3 episodes of the narrative comedy version of Constance Cooks.
Oh, nice.
And then from there, we assembled a team of collaborators because we're theater people and we're writers, but we had never, worked in television or film or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
I was going to ask you, how did you come across like the DP and the director and
it began with our director. It began with Rosalie, and then we also found a producer, and between the two of them and a few other people that we knew, we were able to assemble a team. And those guys were great because they knew that while we understood the concept of our show and the direction we wanted it to go in, they were so great at like helping guide us into like how does this get set up and how do we get this shot and
right.
We talked about the feel of it and all those things with them. So they were really wonderful at working with us and guiding us through that process. And I think Mark and I will say that it was we feel like we got our NYU film education within a year. And we paid for it, but
probably as much as an NYU film education.
Absolutely.
No.
It wasn't cheap.
It's so good. It's so.
It might have been cheaper than NYU
because we're still paying for that one on me.
Right.
So yeah, we feel fortunate in that way as well that we. I think we're fast learners, and so we adapted pretty quickly to how this all rolls, and then we learned a lot during post-production taught us even more than we ever thought we would be taught.
All of those cliches, like you don't know what the show is till you get to post. You don't have a show until you get to post. You realize what you missed, what you should have gotten, what you should have written, what you didn't write. All that stuff, absolutely 100% true.
So does the director handle? Like, is he in the editing booth, or do they just do like production, then you take over post?
So traditionally, when you're talking about a series, the director definitely gets the first cut, so that you get to see the director's takes and the things that they like. But given that we were the creators of the show and that we still needed to flesh out certain things, Mark and I were in the room with our editor for the rest of the time.
I thought so. So good. I can't wait for people to see this because I do love, of course I love the cooking sequence, but the narrative thing is like, it has such a great feel about it. It's so warm and natural, and it doesn't seem scripted, even though I know there's a script. It's just a real ease about it, and it's very New York, and the lighting is great, and just the whole tone of it is really, really cool.
For just to clarify, because as I say, we're going to probably say this 10 times over the course of this, because you've sent people to the Instagram, which is where they can see the cooking stuff. If they want to see the pilot, I think I can say this right. The pilot is online, so the pilot is at constancecooks.com. So that is the comedy narrative pilot.
Good. Okay.
And with any, if we do continue with this, we will very likely rewrite that. We will reshoot it, but it's a really good statement of what we want to do with the show.
Awesome. Oh, I can't wait for people to see that. So what's it like working on something you love? Clearly you love doing this. Living in a 1-bedroom apartment, right?
Yeah.
Married. How does it affect your relationship? Good and bad.
I'm going to let you take the relationship.
Well, Scott.
So the one thing I have to say is that Mark and I, and this might be really my fault, we're not good at just doing something simple or something throwaway. Every time we collaborate, it's something that we really, really care about. So I'm just putting that part up here.
Okay.
And then
okay. Good to know.
Like we don't do
well,
we're just gonna put a little
right. We don't tend to do like the little throwaway project. We imagine something that has a million moving parts, none of which we've ever done before, that requires a lot of money, right? Like the first thing you're supposed to shoot is supposed to be in one location, you don't have to pay people, small cast, things like that.
Yeah.
2 minutes long. No, our first thing was like 3 episodes. Each one is 12 minutes long in 20 locations, So
yeah,
we always
true.
Yeah, exactly.
We have services.
Oh yeah.
We had to do all that.
Yeah, we had to do all of that.
Are you joking, really?
It was a SAG contract. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we basically, obviously we had a line producer and we had a unit production manager and all these things, but we also, as the producers, were collaborating on where was the food going to come from for craft services. So we're the writers, we're the actors, and we're collaborating on craft services. So it was pretty intense.
That's so cool.
How's that affected our
how's it affected our marriage? All right, so we've talked about this before because we've collaborated on theater before. Like I've directed her shows before and stuff, and I think we think that we don't know how people don't do it if they're married to each other. Because it's something that we think about 24/7, where we brainstorm 24/7. We're so consumed by it that I don't know how it works when you can't just turn to the person next to you that you're living with and go, oh, what are we going to do here? So
yeah, or what do you think about this? Or
I think that's fabulous.
We actually love it. I mean, it's not that we don't have disagreements.
Oh, we have disagreements.
Of course, but
it's we're on the same team, so it's
right.
It actually, it's really wonderful. It's like nobody's going to care about it more or have my back more than Mark.
Exactly.
And vice versa. And all we want is the best for each other. And I'm super grateful that we're in the same industry, because I think it would be very sad not to share this with my partner.
Yeah, I agree. And I love, like you said, Mark, like I can't imagine doing this without the person I'm sitting next to and sharing my life with. It's beautiful.
It would require a lot more planning. I mean, in other words, we'd have to be, okay, at Wednesday at 4, we're going to have a production meeting. Here it's like dinner time, and we're like, oh, what about this?
Right.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
So look, we did a production a few years ago, and Mark was very afraid that our life was going to be so consumed with that he was not going to have any space to himself, and he was going to I was always just going to be talking to him about the show. Mm-hmm. And so we decided during that show that we were going to have boundaries, and that in rehearsal we would do this, and then after rehearsal we would have a certain period of time during the day for production, because we were producing it as well, and then after that, nothing. And we very quickly realized that we needed more time than that. We needed more time to process. And so those boundaries just
melted away.
Totally melted, and it's fine.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, was there ever a point when it actually was nothing? Production, blah blah, and then nothing.
I actually would reshape this and say the joy of being able to work with your partner is that you can capture the inspiration in the moment that it happens.
Right.
And so it's additive. It's not. It's not a negative. It's something that you can.
That's a great way of saying it. Yeah, because that's the thing is we're inspired all the time, or something hits us all the time, and then you'd have to write it down, or you'd have to call somebody, or you'd have to. But here it's happening in real time, and we really can bounce ideas off each other and shape it and stuff.
How do you write stuff down? Because I have to write everything down. I'm just doing a podcast. Like, do you use paper towel.
There are notes all over this
Also,
phone.
me too.
Mark's
Google
phone
Docs.
is full of notes, and I'm so scared that we're gonna lose them, and we haven't organized them well enough because
You gotta use Google Docs because
genius.
it's on the cloud.
Well, we also have Google Docs, but I probably have 10 unindexed Google Docs worth of notes. And so then I'm constantly searching like, what are they? But I think this is really weird. I'm having some weird moment where I think the notes program in my phone also connects to Google Docs, because I'll search for things in Google and it'll have been up from my phone. And I'm like, I think they're synced up in some way.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's watching. They're all watching us. So
I know, seriously.
So yeah, but we agree with you, Scott. Like there have been times that we have not written something down,
right.
And a week later we're like, oh, fuck.
That was so brilliant. We thought we would never forget it, and then like 2 days later, you totally forget it.
Honestly, and I do think that I know Notes does. I'm not sure if Google Docs does, but I often use the dictation thing.
Oh yeah.
Like if I have an idea and my hands can't type fast enough for my brain.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I use it for texting and stuff like that. It's fantastic.
I was walking down the street. I had a whole idea for a new show. It was a genius idea. I was like, this is brilliant, and I dictated it to myself. From my phone because I was walking somewhere and I was like, okay, now I'm talking. And I looked back at it and not too many typos, but also a few days later, I was like,
what was that?
What was that? This is like, was this fever dream I just had?
Oh no, really?
Yeah, I mean,
was it a good idea though when you
I think there's something there. Yes, I do. I think inspiration is such a funny beast. You know, how do you capture that and develop it and tease it out? So
exactly.
Just why we have
perfect way to put it
as our material.
Yeah. That's why we just write about our lives, because then inspiration.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Man.
So where do your story ideas come from? Like the narrative part.
Low hanging fruit. Yeah, it's almost everything is based in some moment of reality. I mean, we stretch it, but
yeah, you make it a little more dramatic, but
almost everything has a kernel of it happened to one of us in some way, shape, or form.
So that the stalking of Isaiah, how did that?
I have stalked people before.
So did you know him before this, and it was just sort of
thank God. So Isaiah Whitlock Jr. is an amazing human being who actually is a neighbor, and so we got to know him. And he was super kind, and there's the cat.
There goes our cat.
Cat butt. This is Boo Radley.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Oh my God, are you gonna come?
Scout.
Yeah.
Is your other cat's name
We
Scout?
misnamed him though because he talks a lot, and Boo was very quiet. So So Isaiah was super kind and read our scripts and agreed that we were actually pretty good.
We weren't crazy people, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
And so he very kindly agreed to participate, and that's how that happened. Now I never stalked him, but I mean I have sort of.
Am I giving away something that you're not able to show? I'm sorry. It's not me.
It's okay. I think there's a teaser or something that will happen with that. So don't. But yes, you're right. That episode is the episode.
Okay. They don't need to see it. We can just talk about it. How about that?
Correct. So So there's an episode in which my character thinks that it's the only way that she's going to be able to get some recognition for her show is if she has somebody famous on it.
Yeah.
And so she has decided that the way that she's going to do that is get Isaiah Whitlock to be on her show. And she's stalking him around New York, trying to get him to notice her and be on her show.
Fabulous.
And then hilarity ensues.
I love those videos that you sent me. The receptionist at the agent's office.
My Boo just bit me.
Oh no. Tito does that too. I don't know what that's about. I mean, it's not like a,
I think he knows that we're not talking to him, and he's pissed. Okay.
Sorry, Scott. I feel like we interrupted.
No, it's fine. I did just want to mention quickly the receptionist at Isaiah's agent's office.
Bentley.
Who is that actor? And I fucking love him.
So that is a real version of reality.
Oh.
So
a real version of reality.
Right. So that
It's so
that
real.
lovely human being is Bentley Rand, and Bentley is the
Great
receptionist for my former agency. And I don't know if I can say the agency's name, but
No, we won't say the agency's name.
Probably not.
He agreed to he allowed us to film there on a weekend, and he agreed. And I was like, Bentley, we really want to write you into the show. Would you please play yourself? And so he did.
Oh,
and I think I can say this. I don't think he really understood the extent of,
Right.
of what we were doing.
He didn't think we were going to come in with all this equipment.
I think he thought, Mark was just going to be holding a camera and he didn't realize that there was this whole team and a whole crew and this whole thing. And so I think when we came in, I think we just totally flipped him out. And so I think he was very nervous, but I think he did such a great job.
He's not an actor. He's not an actor, but he did so
really?
great.
Oh.
Just right. He's amazing. He's just amazing.
I mean, I loved everything about the video, but obviously you, but he really stuck out to me. And then in the credits, you've got like all these like bubbles of his face,
Oh, he's so cute because he was hilarious. Because
it's so funny.
Just let himself be himself.
So funny.
He's the funniest human being in the world, and we love him so much, which is why we wanted him in the show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let me just do
There's no way to cast that.
I
don't know
think you're right.
anybody else who could be Bentley.
I think you're right. Mark, I want to talk to you briefly about all these adorable little post-production flares that you do on these videos. How did you come up with that idea, and what kind of, without getting all wonky about it, like what kind of software, what kinds of things, do you, because I know a little bit about video editing, but I don't know how to like add like all these cute little elements.
Yeah. So, well, I've had to teach myself. So again, because this was not anything that I was really tuned into or plugged into. Like I had never trained for any of this stuff. Like everything with the show, it's sort of, there are a lot of pieces. So the addition of graphics into the narrative was not something that we had originally talked about. So we got into post-production and we got inspired to continue to tell the story with a lot of these post-production added animation elements. Nice. And for the narrative, so if you go to constancecooks.com and you go to the pilot, you'll see all these professional animations, professional graphics. That is a wonderful guy who we found, a friend of our editors, Jason Whitaker, thank you. And nice. I mean, really, he's amazing, right? It's a fantastic professional animator. So then what happens is when COVID strikes and we want to make all these cooking segments, we decided we wanted to keep the animation going, but we don't have access to Jason because we can't. It's hard to send files back and forth, and it's expensive, right? So like we're trying to do fast videos. So I had to teach myself some basic tools for adding this post-production stuff. So it's very rudimentary. I mean, if you can believe it, I'm using iMovie. And,
really? Okay.
Oh yeah, and iMovie does not really allow for a lot of you can't use After Effects, and I mean you basically have to do everything separate and then import it into iMovie. Right. So I don't have After Effects, so I'm using. This is really where I'm embarrassed to say this. I'm using PowerPoint for a lot of it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, PowerPoint has some decent basic animation tools. Of a certain style, right? If you're willing to go with the South Park aesthetic, PowerPoint's really amazing. And then also I'm using I'm not using Photoshop, but I'm using a thing called GIMP, which is a Linux-based open share version of Photoshop. So that's
wow.
Yeah, probably some of your listeners out there are familiar with it. So between those two, I'm doing all that stuff. But I want to give a shout out here to Connie because. I think some people think that like it's all me, and the workflow is not like I come up with some of the animation stuff, but the workflow typically goes something like this. Connie will say, "Wow, wouldn't it be great if we could do this? Insert impossible animation here," and then I'll say, "No, that's totally impossible. I don't have the skill to do that. I can't possibly do that in the time we have." And I'll just totally stonewall it. And then like 10 minutes later, I'll be like, well, maybe I could do that.
Interesting.
I like to call Mark the instant expert.
Yeah, man, I know.
He's one of those people who can like process information very quickly, bring it in, assess it, be very critical about it, figure it out, and he's on it. That is not a skill I own, but that is the skill he owns.
But definitely a lot of the inspiration is us sitting there watching a rough cut, going, oh, we could use something here, we could do something there, you know.
Nice. I mean, that's how I've learned, you know, aside from schooling and stuff, what I'm doing now is I have this idea and I Google it, and it's amazing how open the community is in terms of, you know, web production and video production. Sorry?
And what a tool that we have now, that we can just go on interwebs and ask a question and there's something there.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, I love technology when it works.
Just I can't interpret it, you two can, but I know it's there.
It's all my misspent youth, you know, just poking around and trying new stuff and whatever.
Me too. Honey, I want to talk to you about your North Carolina and Lebanon roots.
Right.
How it, you know, shaped your life and how it shapes the series.
Yeah. Well, so that's so good. I'm pausing right now because all of a sudden I just realized we're getting ready to be talking about this more this week with this new class. But so I grew up in North Carolina, and but I'm second generation Lebanese. All four of my grandparents immigrated from Lebanon in the early 1900s, and they all ended up in North Carolina. That's a long story in and of itself, but there was a fairly decent Lebanese population in eastern North Carolina. And my parents met, and it was not everybody in their families married someone who was of Lebanese descent, but they happened to. So I got to be full bred.
She's not a muggle. What she's trying to say is she's not a muggle.
Right.
That's what she's trying to say.
I'm a muggle.
So growing up in North Carolina in our lifetime during when I was a kid, like nobody really understood what that was in the South. So I definitely felt the outsider status on some level. And it interestingly, it culminated a lot in the food that I would eat. Like if I took a sandwich to school, it would be in the Syrian pocket bread,
like falafel.
It would be or it could be in there with some pine nuts and whatever, and people just thought I was weird as shit, and I was weird as shit, but that might not have been the reason. But
you're still weird as shit. I mean, come on.
And I'm also
you're weird as shit,
right? I'm also the youngest of 9 kids, so. I think our family was just an anomaly in and of itself. Like that was just odd.
Are they still in North Carolina? Your parents?
Yeah, they're all in North Carolina. Yeah. So when I graduated from college, I moved up to New York, and kaboom. So here I am.
Kaboom.
But it was the first time, honestly. I do remember my first year up here, and I would walk around, and I'm like, oh my God, people are brunette. Like, not everybody was blonde. It's so exciting.
So one of those clips that you sent me, there's a. First of all, I want to ask you: do you actually have a landline with a voice machine?
I do.
How awesome is that?
I
love that. No, look, I'm not doxing you. I just think it's fantastic. There's a message from your dad, and he has a Southern accent.
Because he's very Southern.
Wow.
And
we sent
getting that recording from him was a trick in and of itself.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
Wait, so I don't think, but so that's really her dad. Like,
that's really my dad.
Like we got him to record that message.
I'm wondering.
Yeah. Well, we actually thought about not doing that, and then we decided we would try it. We would try to get it to say it. Yeah.
And then the box with the glow on it. So awesome.
I do want to clarify so that everything you're talking about just right now in terms of the answering machine and her dad and all that stuff, again, that's not the pilot, so that you wouldn't see that if you go to constancecooks.com.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
So just
I'm giving it all away, but I'm just building, like interest, hopefully, God, I hope
Totally
Exactly, that's right.
Absolutely.
Someone's going to have to buy the show in order to see those episodes.
Correct. Or at least take a meeting.
Yeah,
Tell me about. I think I know what the answer is, but tell me about the name of your production company, Beep Beep Entertainment, and how that came about.
I was debating as to whether do I want to tell the real story or the not real story.
Just tell it.
Okay, so first of all, there is a sweatshirt. There is a sweatshirt that I own that says Beep Beep on it. I've had it since I was about 7 years old. For some reason, I can still wear it. And and it is like my all-time favorite sweatshirt ever. And it's copyrighted, so we can't really talk about it. But
it's the two cartoon characters you might think.
The two cartoon characters with Beep Beep.
Right, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So the T-shirt is the same reference.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
The real reason that it's named this is that because I was a dork and growing up, I would do things like be a child exhibitionist, and I would hang on the jungle gym in the first grade and show off my underwear because of course I was wearing a dress. And I had underwear that said Beep Beep on it with the little bird going across it.
Oh my God.
And later in my life, when I was in high school, these people came out of the woodwork that knew me when I was in the first grade and were like, "Oh my God, you were the kid that," and I'm like, "Oh God, yes, that was me."
This is so much more layered and
it's like, owning the shame of my childhood is why we called the production company Beep Beep.
Scott, you heard it here first. I'll tell you what, this is an exclusive scoop.
Here you go.
Someday.
We're the first here on Way Off the Record podcast. I'm so excited. I think I covered everything. I'm looking through my notes.
I don't see how you can top that, really, truthfully. I mean, at that point, what more?
I hope you're taking on my childhood shame, too.
I'm blushing. Can't you tell I'm blushing right here?
Thank you, Connie and Mark, Constance and Mark. This has been really fun. I'm so excited for people to go visit constancecooks.com and then on their Instagram page, Constance Cooks, to learn more about this fantastic series from my friends. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much for having us.
This is lovely.
Yay.